The Milton Model is a set of language patterns that were reverse engineered from Dr. Milton Erickson, a physician who invented conversational hypnosis. He was a therapist and he wanted to heal his patients a lot faster. And so he developed this conversational hypnotic style of healing people. People would come into his office, they would tell him their problem. He would say, oh, that reminds me of a story. And he would tell them a bunch of stories that were very convoluted, very hard to follow. And an hour or two would pass. The patient would leave not really sure what just happened. But then a couple of weeks later, they would notice that that problem is now gone and had been gone for a couple of weeks. And he became very, very famous doing this. And so some linguists came in and reverse engineered how he spoke. And they came up with the Milton Model. And his overall communication style has three basic levels. The first level is his basic storytelling structure, how he told stories, how he kind of wove these stories together. The second level is how he used information from the patient in these stories. And the third level is the Milton Model itself, which is a linguistic level set of structures. And within this linguistic level set of structures, there's about 50 specific patterns. And these specific patterns themselves are in three basic categories. The first category is the Milton Model patterns, which are ways to kind of stitch ideas together to kind of create these cause-effect ideas in the brain of the customer or the listener or the patient. And the second are presuppositions, which are linguistic structures to hide ideas inside sentences so they go into the brain of your listener undetected. And the third are these patterns of ambiguity. Now, patterns of ambiguity on their own don't really do that much, but they help you fade the brain of your listener. So your listeners' brains go offline just a little bit. They're very, very hypnotic sounding, and they make your brain kind of squishy, and it makes it a lot easier to slip ideas into a squishy brain. And so you take, if you're having a therapy session and you're having like an hour-long conversation, you can take these ambiguity patterns and kind of sprinkle them out throughout the session, and it'll keep the patient's brain kind of in a state of hypnosis. But you can use these as a party trick as well if you only use these, and you can drop a few of these into a conversation and watch the brains of your listeners kind of slip offline just momentarily. It's a lot of fun, and it will give you evidence of how powerful you are with your language, or how powerful you can be with your language, how you can use your language to alter other people's thinking, how you can use your language to put thoughts into other people's brains. And one of the patterns of ambiguity is called a punctuation ambiguity. It's where you have a phrase, and the last word or noun phrase of this phrase is also the first word or noun phrase of the next phrase. For example, phrase number one could be, yesterday I went to the truck stop. Phrase number two could be, truck stops are a great place to get an omelet. And if I put these two together and only say the word truck stop once, yesterday I went to the truck stops are great places to get an omelet. That's kind of you start with the idea, but then it fades into the next idea, and the people that are listening to you won't really know what just happened or what the first phrase has to do with the second phrase. It'll create a lot of confusion, and if you just keep talking, they'll wonder what happened. But you can also stack these patterns up. You can use several of them in one sentence. For example, yesterday I went to the truck stops are a great place to get an omelet can't be made without cracking a few eggs are getting more expensive because of inflation is going to kill the country unless somebody figures out what to do about this is very confusing, isn't it? And if you just keep talking, people will know something's up. They'll know you're doing something funny. And a few people might be able to know the specific linguistic pattern that you're using, but it's a great way to add in other patterns. A fantastic way to use this as a confusion pattern is throw in some confusing language patterns, put in a couple of embedded commands, and follow it up with some Milton Model patterns with a tag question. For example, yesterday I went to the truck stops are a great place to get an omelet can't be made without cracking a few eggs are getting more expensive because inflation is going to kill everybody unless somebody figures out how to do something about this is very confusing. Isn't it a good idea to use embedded commands when you speak to people? Because when you use embedded commands, you can slide ideas into people's brains. And you would very much like to be able to slide ideas into people's brains, don't you? And this is just one quick example that you can use to combine several different ideas from the Milton Model to make your language much more comprehensive, much more elegant, much more persuasive. And here's the thing. People exercise every day. Some people exercise every day or a few times a week. And they get a lot of benefits from exercising every day. They live longer. They sleep better. They have more confidence. They look better. And this is from exercise, physical exercise. Consider practicing the Milton Model a little bit every day as exercise for your brain, as exercise for your communication. Because communication is mostly nonverbal. It's 90% nonverbal according to many experts. And when you practice the Milton Model, you're practicing your outward language, how you use your language. And because your outward language is an expression of your inner thought, by practicing the Milton Model, by being able to practice these language patterns, you are not only practicing your outer expressions of your inner thought, but you're also changing how you think on the inside. And when you change how you think on the inside, that will inform and change your entire mind-body system. That will make your nonverbal communication much more persuasive. That will make your nonverbal communication much more elegant and seductive. That will completely change how you interact with the world just by practicing these language patterns. And the Milton Model itself has about 50 specific language patterns. And when you think of all the ways that you can combine these together and use these conversationally, there are literally millions of ways to do this. You will have no end of flexibility with your language. And when you increase the flexibility of your language, you will become much more compelling as a speaker. You will be interpreted as being much more intelligent. People will start to think about you more often when you're away from them. So practicing the Milton Model on a daily basis is a fantastic way to improve all your communication and your nonverbal energy. So just consider understanding what the Milton Model is, understanding how you can practice this every day, and just start practicing. It only takes about 5-10 minutes a day. So get started and see what happens. If you'd like to learn more, check out the links below. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.